Hi there, Andrew from Growing Chefs again, and welcome to our next video in the Teaching the Curriculum Through Food series in partnership with Farm to Cafeteria Canada. In this video, we will explore activities that involve tasting, where all preparation is done ahead of time. Most of these activities are a progression of activities and concepts we've discussed in the previous video, but with an added tasting component. These concepts and activities are adaptable for children from kindergarten to grade 8. We're going to talk about some of the reasoning and theories behind these activities with examples from Growing Chefs programming that you will hopefully be able to draw from and adapt for use in your classroom. A quick note, before you bring food of any kind into your classroom, make sure you've watched our video on food safety and talked to your school dietitian or someone with an up-to-date food safe certification. It's always easier to address any food safety issues before you fully design your activity. A couple of quick tips. Make sure all participants have washed their hands before and that you have a plan for them to continue washing their hands throughout the activity. And make sure that any foods that students will be tasting have been prepared and stored in a safe way. Be aware of and accommodate any cultural preferences or limitations and any food allergies to ensure that every student can participate. We hope that this video can provide you with some ideas and strategies for introducing your students to some new, healthy foods in a positive way through a variety of curriculum connections. Sensory activities are a great way to focus on how to taste food, especially with children as young as kindergarten. This is an extension of the vocabulary and language exercise that we talked about in the previous video. Here's a great tasting component that you can add once the students are thinking about neutral descriptive words. Adding new vocabulary to trying foods and thinking about their qualities is the practical application of this activity. This is where we teach students to begin developing their palate and critical thinking skills about how food feels and tastes, and they begin to learn to, what we call, taste like a chef. The objective of this activity is to help children identify when and how they are using each of their senses when approaching foods. Possible curriculum connections include literacy and health. Food literacy connections include food knowledge and developing positive food attitudes. For this activity, we start by drawing a chart with the vegetables and fruits we are going to be using and asking students to list their 5 senses, which we can then draw on the chart. Each student is handed a small piece of orange and purple carrot, or green and purple grapes, or even green and red apples, and asked to inspect each one. Again, this activity works best when you have already created your list of descriptive words to use when describing the foods. Words like crunchy, smooth, crisp, sweet, juicy, hot, cold, etc. are what we're going for. Throughout this activity, encourage students to describe what they are experiencing using words from the list and avoiding preferential words like yucky or gross or even yummy or delicious. We'll ask students questions like, what color is each carrot and how did you know? What sense did you use to identify the color? And what do the carrots feel like? Are they bumpy or are they smooth, warm or cool, and so on. Use these guiding questions for each sense. Check off the sense used on the graph as you go along. And as you move through the senses, be sure to encourage students to recognize that our senses all work a little differently. This is one of the reasons we all like and dislike different sights, sounds, smells, feelings, and tastes. When it comes to listening to the sound each fruit and vegetable makes, we approach this by listening to the sound when we bite into them. Carrots and apples are usually crunchy. Grapes and cucumbers are often described as sounding juicy. The key here is by asking the students to focus on the sound of the bite. It can distract many students from worrying about what it might taste like. Finally, students can describe what the taste was like, but remember to encourage them to use the list of descriptive words and not preferences. It doesn't really matter if students liked everything or not, as the importance of trying each food and participating in the activity is the most important part. Our taste buds change so quickly anyways. What we like or don't like today will likely change tomorrow. If the class is settled and still into the activity, we will often add the idea of a mystery food, while we ask students to close or cover their eyes to see if they can identify the food using their other senses. We generally use cucumbers for this, as it has a very distinct smell, by peeling ribbons for the children to taste, as the shape and texture is a little different than how they would have experienced it before. This activity can then be extended for students to cut pieces of vegetables and make a picture that they can eat while listening to a story. We will explore this extension a little more in the next video, as it involves preparing foods in the classroom. These next activities focus on plant growth, and we'll start with a seed matching activity we've designed for primary students. The objective of this activity is to help children understand the relationship between plants, plant growth, and fruits and vegetables. This is a simple activity that teaches where fruits and vegetables come from, what seeds we eat and grow, and also doubles as a plant and vegetable identification exercise. We find that many students can't tell the difference between a radish or a beet, a garlic or an onion, a tomato or a potato, or even recognize vegetables like fennel or kohlrabi at all. Through the years, we've often asked students to draw pictures of gardens or farms, and have collected a startling number of pictures of carrots growing off of trees and bushes, strawberries growing underground like root vegetables, and countless trees with bananas, apples, and grapes all growing together. It became obvious to us that although children tend to have a very good grasp on the basics of plant growth and development, they have little to no experience with how the food we eat actually grows. This is also a great activity to expose students to different fruits and vegetables without actually having to taste them or dealing with some of the anxiety that trying new foods can bring. Possible curriculum connections include science and plant growth, and possible food literacy connections help with food knowledge and food systems. This activity creates a matching game with seeds and their full-grown counterparts. Students need to use personal experience and deductive logic to match the seeds and vegetables together. For this activity, we set up our classroom in 3 stations, with 4 examples of seeds on one side and 4 examples of fruits and vegetables on the other at each station. We break the students into 3 groups and give each group a worksheet to try and match each seed to each vegetable or fruit. Students are encouraged to smell, feel, and look at the different vegetables to try and identify each one. You will likely need to help by giving clues. Students are then encouraged to look for similarities to the seeds. For example, red radish seeds are also red. Fennel seeds smell like black licorice, and peas and bean seeds look like the peas and beans we eat. Or you can explore differences, like lettuce, beet, and broccoli seeds, which do not have any resemblance at all to their grown counterparts. In the next video, we'll explore an extension activity that involves making a couple of seed-based snacks in the classroom. Moving into an activity that talks about how fruits and vegetables relate to parts of the plant. This activity objective is to help children understand how fruits and vegetables grow by relating a variety of fruits and vegetables and identifying which part of the plant is the part that we eat. Primary students begin to learn about plant growth in a little more detail and are generally confident in identifying parts of the plant. But we have observed that when asked to identify which parts of the plant the fruits and vegetables they eat come from, we found that most students have never thought about fruits and vegetables as plants. Connecting fruits and vegetables to the part of the plant that is eaten is an important part of food knowledge and helps to provide students a better understanding of where their food comes from, how much time, energy, and resources can go into growing food, and it can also help students to better appreciate the value of fruits and vegetables and the impact that agriculture has on the natural environment. Possible curriculum connections include science, plant growth, and social studies. Food literacy connections are food knowledge, food systems knowledge, self-efficacy, and confidence. We begin this activity by asking students to remind us of the different parts of the plant and then try to identify a fruit or vegetable to represent each different part of the plant. Celery can be a stem, Spinach is an example of a leaf. Corn is a seed, and carrot is a root, etc. We then divide the class into 4 groups and provide each group with a platter with a variety of vegetables representing each different part of the plant. They are asked to identify each vegetable and try and guess what part of the plant it represents. You can cut some open to see if they have seeds inside, or just to have students see what they look like, smell like, and feel like on the inside. We like to bring both common and uncommon fruits and vegetables in order to provide a larger variety of foods to explore. We have found that children love to debate whether a tomato is actually a fruit or a vegetable. Our simple conclusion, we explain, is that although tomato is the fruit of the plant, as soon as you pick it and bring it in the kitchen, we always cook it like a vegetable. So in reality, it's actually both. We often find that by talking to farmers at our local farmers markets, many are willing to set aside examples of different vegetables that are misshapen or flawed and donate them or sell them at a reduced cost. This is also a good opportunity to meet your local farmers. Most of the time, we find farmers are very encouraging of any activities that increase the public's understanding and appreciation of food. Plus, you can often find varieties of fruits and vegetables at a market that you don't find in standard grocery stores. As a tip, we notice children get pretty excited about striped or candy cane beets, purple or yellow carrots, or any unusual or misshapen root vegetables or squash. We generally don't plan to prepare or eat these example vegetables as they will have been handled by so many students and many will get bruised or damaged. So although this activity does end up with some food waste, we believe that the exposure and fun nature of exposing new varieties of fruits and vegetables is beneficial enough to justify any of that waste. That said, any vegetables with thick skins like celery root, rutabagas, squashes, or turnips can be carefully washed, peeled, and eaten afterwards. For older grades, like 4, 5, and up, this activity can be adapted to explore the growing season relating to various fruits and vegetables and how the way in which they grow affects the time of year that fruits and vegetables are ripe in your area. As an extension activity, you can cut up some sample fruits and vegetables from each part of the plant and taste them using dips or salad dressings made in the classroom with measuring cups and spoons. We'll explore this in a little more detail in the next video. Food reviews, which we touched on in the last video, encourage students to continue approaching foods objectively and develop their sense of taste. Possible curriculum connections: literacy, health, and social studies. Food literacy connections are to strengthen food language, self-efficacy and confidence, developing positive food attitudes, and nutrition language. As discussed in the previous video, another way to combine food vocabulary activities is through writing food reviews. Present students with a snack in class that has a variety of flavors and textures, and then have each student write a short review using neutral descriptive words. You can expand this activity by making a snack together in class, or you can make it a homework assignment by having students write a review about something new they've tasted at home. But remember, many students may not have the same access to food at home, so keep the requirements of the assignment loose to allow students to write about any foods they have access to that they haven't tried before, which may mean expanding what is acceptable to include foods that may not necessarily be healthy. For purposes of this activity, we believe that ensuring the activity is inclusive is the most important thing. We find that students really enjoy emulating TV chef judges from their favorite shows like Top Chef, Chopped, MasterChef Junior, and are often willing to brave trying new things for the opportunity to act like the judges that they see on TV. This activity can also be built upon and extended by exploring traditional foods from cultures around the world and the cultural celebrations those foods are related to. The history of food preservation. Exploring various food preservation techniques how they were discovered and have evolved over time, as well as how they are still used today, offers opportunities to help students learn about and better understand the role food plays and has played in the history of human settlement across the world, as well as ways that early civilizations learned to use resources available to them to adapt to their built environments through the various methods of food preservation that were discovered. The ability to save and preserve food was one of the main reasons humans were able to begin settling in one place and building communities. Possible curriculum connections: social studies and science. Food literacy connections are food knowledge, food systems knowledge, socio-cultural influences in eating practices, and food skills. Students should explore different ways that food is preserved. We've provided a sample presentation that we use in the classroom. We have noticed that many students don't realize that common ingredients like yogurt, cheese, and soy sauce, as well as many condiments, are considered preserved foods. You can bring in examples of foods preserved in different ways. For example, corn chips or jerky for dried foods, jam or jellies for canned, yogurt and cheese, soy sauce, miso or kombucha for fermentation, and deli meats or smoked salmon for smoking and curing. Have students look deeper into the role food preservation is and still plays in various cultures around the world, or played in the early lives of Indigenous peoples here in Canada. You can explore how some Indigenous peoples in Canada still preserve food today and continue traditional food preserving practices. As an extension activity, you could make a quick pickle in class, which we will cover in a little more detail in the next video, and which will explore different ways to build food skills and language by bringing simple food preservation into the classroom. Preparing food together is one of the best ways to put classroom learning into practice and give experiential opportunity to apply it to real-life situations. We can't wait to see you then. Thanks for checking out this video, and we'll see you soon.